All right. So, read aloud today. I have to be noted. I've been noticing that people are voting with their feet, and I'm getting very few views on the read aloud. And I want everybody to be in sync next week. So, for those of you who are not watching right now, don't worry. You will be seeing this next week. And for those of you who are following along, I thought I'd give you a little stimulating thing, which is this. Zoe wrote to me and said, "Oh, this reminds me of some other books." Very intelligent comment to be thinking of. Where does this book, The Giver, exist within the world of books? And so she named The City of Ember, which I thought was very smart because it is the same kind of book. It's called a dystopian novel, which is envisioning a society that is like ours, but not like ours. It's an extrapolation of our society, but a dystopia is always like a terrible future. One of the most famous of these is 1984. And 1984 is very much a grown-up book, even though you can read it now if you want to. It's not going to hurt you. Just go back to it later too. Anyway, I'm going to read you the first page of 1984 and notice how much it has in common with The Giver, or rather how clearly Lois Lowry, and indeed just about every writer in English, has read 1984. Here you go. It was a bright, cold day in April. And let's do it again. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. See that thing I told you about how it's constant, you're constantly being wrong-footed by familiar, massively unfamiliar that is not commented on. So I'll do it again. Very famous opening line, this. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Winston Smith, his chin nuzzled into his breast in an effort to escape the vile wind, slipped quickly through the glass doors of Victory Mansion, though not quickly enough to prevent a swirl of gritty dust from entering along with him. The hallway smelt of boiled cabbage and old rag mats. At one end of it, a coloured poster, too large for indoor display, had been tacked to the wall. It depicted simply an enormous face, more than a metre wide, the face of a man of about 45 with a heavy black moustache and ruggedly handsome features. Winston made for the stairs. It was no use trying the lift. Even at the best of times it was seldom working, and at present the electric current was cut off during daylight hours. It was part of the economy drive in preparation for Hate Week. The flat was 7 flights up, and Winston, who was 39, had a varicose ulcer up above his right ankle, went slowly, resting several times on the way. On each landing, opposite the lift shaft, the poster with the enormous face gazed from the wall. It was one of those pictures which are so contrived that the eyes follow you about when you move. "Big Brother is watching you," the caption beneath it ran. Stop there. That is page 1. And you see all of the elements that are so familiar to us when we look at The Giver. We have the weird things, right? The clock striking 13. We have Hate Week. What on earth is that? And we have this massive poster with the eyes that follow you around and the thing that says "Big Brother is watching you." And then we have other things too. This is clearly our world, right? Just like in The Giver, there are people having a conversation after an evening meal, the family all talking about their day. But here we have the same thing. We have the world we recognize, but it is run down and miserable in every possible way. Though there's a wind, but the wind is vile. And it is the dust is gritty, and it smells, and the electricity is only on at night. And then even Winston himself, who was 39, youngish, healthy man from my perspective, has an ulcer and, has to rest as he walks upstairs. So and then of course there's also the other thing, which is the irony, the distance between what's said and what's meant. There's no sense of victory in this and yet we have, victory mansions. And even this book, even this book is also referring to other books too. The moment you see April, it immediately makes you think in some way of the month of April, and lots of people have written about April. And one of the most famous ones was Chaucer, who wrote a poem called the Canterbury Tales, where he talks about April with its showers sweet. And it's not sweet; it's bright and cold, and the wind is not sweet and pleasant, but vile. So The Giver, very much in tradition with this book. I'm going to read more of the book tomorrow, but hopefully I'll have, sorry, not tomorrow, on Monday, because that's when I think people are going to tune into it, and I don't want to do it out of sync. In the meantime, don't get a copy of The Giver, don't read ahead, we'll all do it together, and I'll have something else for you next week. No, I mean tomorrow.